I just want to give a brief kind of background and context. I assume, or shouldn't assume, some of you may already know me. I'm a professor at UCSF, where I've run an epilepsy lab for the last 22 years. We work on zebrafish, mice, sea lions, a variety of translational projects. And over that time, that's taken me into different directions in terms of our research and my interactions. And so as a disclosure, some of this work actually has led to direct clinical trials. We founded a company a couple years ago called Epigenics, which is currently testing drugs in patients that we discovered in zebrafish models. And so I have a fair understanding of both sides of being a basic scientist and also how to translate this to clinical application. And what I'm hoping here, and a little context, about 20 years ago, I had coffee with two women you might know from here in Chicago, Barbara Kelly and Susan Axelrod, at an AS meeting when they were forming CURE. And I think one of the things I loved about CURE in the early years, in the first decade, was that Susan and Barbara made a real effort to put epilepsy cures on the map, not just let's see what we can treat, but an actual mission to cure epilepsy with no side effects. And they funded a lot of seed projects that I think have contributed greatly to the field, including in my own hands, our own work, which they seed funded back then. 10 years later, I met another pair, Laurie O'Driscoll and Marianne Meskis, again at the AS meeting, this time not over coffee, but over drinks at the bar. And they were forming a foundation called the Dravet Syndrome Foundation. And as many of you know, DSF now is about 12 years in. Laurie Isom and Jack Parent do a great job heading the scientific advisory board there. And the lessons we learned from there were that you can really drive research in a specific direction from a patient advocate point of view, toward labs and then toward companies. And in less than a decade, or a little more than a decade, Dravet syndrome has not only seen a variety of new models that didn't exist 10 years ago, both in mice and fish and organoids, but they also have two drugs that are the most recently approved FDA drugs for epilepsy, cannabidiol and fenfluramine. And so with that in mind and those experiences, when Tracy approached me earlier last year about coming over and helping out LGS on the scientific board, I told her, my main kind of goal in doing this is to kind of use the lessons that I at least have learned by working with CURE and LGS and industry and being an NIH-funded professor and all those things rolled into one. My hope is that this first meeting catalyzes the same types of things we've seen with both CURE Foundation and DSF more recently, that in hopefully less than 10 years from now, we'll start to see treatments emerge from these meetings that go to patients with LGS. And I think these lessons start with the basic science. Obviously, I'm biased toward that. And so what I'm hoping today is you see some of the funding, some of the funded research that LGS has already done in the basic science arena. And we really welcome input on where we want to go with this next, because I think this is an exciting time for LGS. And the chance to do cutting edge research is really upon us at this moment as an inflection point. And so with that, I'm going to have the speakers come up.